The worst part wasn't that she cheated. It was where she did it, in the house I was building for her, with my own brother. I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this. You know the kind, the heartbroken husband spilling his guts online because he just found out his wife's been cheating. I always thought I was smarter than that I'd see it coming, that it wouldn't happen to me. Well, it did. And it happened in the most brutal, ridiculous, soul-crushing way possible. My name's Mike. I'm 38. I live in northern Colorado, just outside Fort Collins. I work construction, mostly solo gigs these days, since I left the big firm a few years back. I've always been the kind of guy who liked doing things with his hands. I don't talk much. I don't party. I don't post photos of my food or pretend my life's perfect online. I met Rachel when I was 30. She was 27. She was magnetic in the way women who know their own power often are. Beautiful, sharp-tongued, funny, a little arrogant. The kind of woman who could walk into a room and make every guy stop mid-sentence. And she knew it. We dated for a year, got married the next fall. We never had kids, not for lack of trying on my part. Rachel always said she wasn't sure she wanted to be a mom. I respected that. I figured maybe one day she'd change her mind. I didn't want to pressure her. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but whose is? We had our fights, our routines. She liked wine and rom-coms. I liked beer and sci-fi. But we made it work. Or at least I thought we did. About a year and a half ago, I bought a piece of land just outside of town. 5 acres, open space, with a view of the mountains. My plan was to build us a home, not hire a crew build it. With my hands. Every beam, every nail. A place for us to grow old. Something permanent. Something real. She said she loved the idea. Said she admired my ambition. That I was a real man. Unlike the ones who just bought things and acted like they'd earned them. So I got to work. Nights, weekends, whenever I could. I designed it myself. Spent months poring over blueprints, comparing with types, talking to older contractors about foundation work. I even built a tiny cabin on-site to sleep in when I was too exhausted to drive home. She barely visited. Said she didn't like the bugs. That the air made her allergies act up. I told myself it was okay. That she'd get more interested when the walls went up. They did. And she didn't. I remember the first time something felt off. It was late fall. I came home after a 14-hour day of framing. My hands were raw. My shoulders screamed. I walked in the door and Rachel was on the couch, laughing at something on her phone. Not a care in the world. She looked up and said, "Oh hey, you're late." No hug. No kiss. No, how was your day? Just, you're late. I shrugged it off. Maybe she'd had a bad day. But then it kept happening. She started locking her phone. Staying out later. Talking about work more. Even though she didn't seem that passionate about her job before. She'd get dressed up for client dinners, wearing perfume I hadn't smelled on her in years. One night I asked her, "Everything okay between us?" She looked at me like I was a stranger. Of course. Why would you ask that? I don't know, I said. Just feels like you're distant. She laughed. Not kindly. Maybe because I never see you. You're always at that damn property. That damn property is our future home, I said. She rolled her eyes. Sure. If it ever gets finished. I went to bed that night wondering when things had shifted. When the woman who used to kiss me in the kitchen while I made pancakes had turned into someone who sighed every time I opened my mouth. A few weeks later, my brother Travis stopped by the build site. He brought burgers and beers. Said he wanted to see what the big deal was. He'd always been the flashy one, the guy who wore designer sunglasses and drove cars he couldn't afford. We were opposites growing up. I was the quiet builder. He was the talker, the charmer. We'd had our issues, sure, but he was still my brother. I figured he was just curious. He came by a few more times after that. Sometimes helped hold beams while I drilled. Sometimes just stood around sipping coffee, asking questions. I didn't think much of it. But then Rachel started mentioning him. A lot. Travis said we should try that new Italian place. Travis told me this funny story at lunch. Travis helped me with the TV when it glitched. It was subtle at first. Just a name popping up too often. But my gut, that quiet part of me I'd always trusted on job sites, started whispering that something wasn't right. I pushed it down. I didn't want to be the jealous husband. The paranoid guy who thinks every laugh between his wife and his brother is some grand betrayal. But the seed had been planted. One night I came home early from the site. I wasn't supposed to. The rain had canceled the roofing job I was doing. I opened the door, and the house was quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard something upstairs. Laughter. Her laughter. Then a man's voice. I froze. My body moved before my brain did. I went upstairs, 2 steps at a time, hard in my throat. The door to our bedroom was cracked. Inside, Rachel sat on the edge of the bed, fully clothed, laughing at something on Travis's phone. He was standing behind her, shirtless. When they saw me, Rachel jumped. Travis didn't. Hey man, he said, like we were catching up at a bar. Rachel stood up, stammering. It's not what it looks like. Of course it wasn't. I walked out, drove back to the site, slept in the cabin, stared at the unfinished beams above me, and tried to understand where I'd gone wrong. They thought I didn't know. They thought I'd walk away quietly. They had no idea who I was. I didn't confront them. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even slam the door. I just left. I drove back to the build site, pulled into the gravel lot next to the frame of the house I was pouring my soul into, climbed into the cabin I used when I worked late, and sat in the silence. The cabin was dark, quiet. No TV, no Wi-Fi, just me, the scent of fresh sawdust, and the realization that my wife had been laughing with my brother in our bedroom, in a house I was building for her. Not angry yet. Not crying either. Just still. By morning, I knew what I had to do. I went to the hardware store, bought 2 motion sensor cameras, a cloud backup system, and a smart switch I could wire into the cabin. That same afternoon, I installed everything while pretending to work like usual. No one suspected a thing. I hid the first camera behind a beam in the living room. The second one, upstairs in the hallway near the bedroom. Everything was linked to my phone, silently saving every moment they thought they were getting away with. I told Rachel I'd be sleeping on site for a while to finish the inside wiring. She didn't argue. Of course she didn't. That weekend, the cameras caught them. Friday afternoon, Travis pulled up while I was at work. Rachel let him in with a little kiss, wine already poured on the table. They joked, walked around like tourists in someone else's home, then sat together on the couch I'd moved in for staging. He touched her knee. She leaned into him. They laughed. Not like 2 people having an affair. Like 2 people who were done hiding. I didn't rage. I labeled the footage. Saved it to a private folder. Watched once. Then turned it off. Over the next 2 weeks, they gave me more. Travis showing up midday. Rachel dressing up to run errands. Conversations caught on audio. He's so wrapped up in this build, he probably thinks we'll all move in together. Let him finish it. We'll take the house. He'll walk away like always. She actually said that. They thought I'd never find out. What they didn't know was that I'd already started changing everything. The house wasn't in our names. I'd bought the land through a small LLC I formed years ago for tax reasons. It was a shell, sure, but one I controlled. And that LLC? I was in the process of donating the home to a nonprofit that builds housing for disabled veterans. That was the part Rachel hadn't figured out. She thought I'd be too heartbroken to think straight. She didn't know she was making it easier for me to walk away from her and take everything with me. One night, Rachel got home before me and made dinner. That hadn't happened in months. She poured 2 glasses of wine, sat across from me at the table, and smiled like nothing had changed. You think the house will be done before Thanksgiving? She asked. Maybe, I said. Depends on the weather. She sipped her wine. I was thinking we should sell it. Split the money, clean break. I mean, we both put in time. I paused. You want to sell? Well, yeah. Makes sense, right? Start fresh. I nodded. Makes sense. She smiled. Thought she'd just won a round. I waited 3 more days. Then, after filing the final transfer paperwork, I left a single printed document on the kitchen counter. Nothing else. It had one sentence highlighted. Property legally donated to Mountain Steps Veterans Housing Initiative. When she saw it, her reaction was exactly what I expected. She stormed into the hallway, waving the paper. You gave away the house. Yep. To a charity? Yep. She stared at me like I'd just told her I burned our savings. You're insane. I shrugged. I'm done. That night, she didn't sleep in our bed. I could hear her pacing in the living room for hours. I didn't care. For the first time in months, I slept straight through. A few days later, Travis showed up at the site again. I was moving insulation into the back when I saw his car pull up. He stepped out, hands in his jacket pockets, that fake little smirk still glued to his face. I didn't stop what I was doing. Yo, he called. Didn't expect you here. I live here. He hesitated. You all right, man? Rachel said you've been kinda off. I turned slowly. You got a lot of nerve saying her name to me. He raised his hands. I'm just saying, maybe we talk. Like brothers. We're not brothers anymore. He stood there for a second, then turned and left. I didn't watch him go. He wasn't worth it. A week later, Rachel tried the other tactic, kindness. She brought me coffee. Sat next to me on the porch like it was 10 years ago. I've been thinking, she said. Maybe we rushed into decisions. Maybe we should talk. I said nothing. She stared ahead. We built so much together. I finally turned to her. You helped me pick curtains once. She winced. Silence. Then, so, what now? I stood up. Now? I moved forward. You figure out what to do without the house you thought you were getting. I walked inside. Left her sitting there. That night, I lit a fire at the cabin, opened a beer, and looked at the lights glowing from the finished home. I didn't feel bitter. I didn't even feel proud. I felt finished. Let them live in the shell they created. I'd already rebuilt myself, and I hadn't even moved out yet. You don't have to destroy someone to beat them. Just get quiet. Let the silence do the work. After I gave away the house, everything changed and nothing did. Rachel stopped pretending. No more small talk, no more fake smiles. Travis stopped showing up completely. Maybe they thought I'd lose my mind, try to win her back, scream, beg, blow up their lives. I didn't. I just went quiet. And that scared them more than anything. I moved out the next week. Rented a small place on the edge of town. 1 bedroom, wood floors, no memories. I took only what was mine. Left her the plates and the curtains. Left her everything but the peace. The house I'd built with my hands, the one they treated like a weekend Airbnb, was now officially the property of a nonprofit that placed wounded veterans into custom housing. I didn't post about it. Didn't even tell many friends. That wasn't the point. I hadn't just taken the house from them. I'd taken the ending they thought they were writing. Rachel's first message came 4 days after I left. Can we talk? Nope. Then. I know you're mad. Just want to explain things. Nothing to explain. Then the third. Travis lost his job. Things are a little tight. Do you think we could talk? There it was. Through a cousin, I found out they'd moved into a small apartment off Lincoln Avenue. Rent wasn't cheap in that area, but it wasn't great either. Mid-tier. The kind of place where the walls are thin and the neighbors scream through them. I didn't ask for updates. People gave them anyway. Dude, they're arguing all the time now. I think Travis is staying somewhere else most nights. Rachel looks different. Like the shine wore off. Yeah, it does that. She came to see me the next week. Unannounced. Knocked like it was her house. When I opened the door, she just stood there, hands in her hoodie, eyes baggy and tired. Hey. I didn't answer. Can I come in? No. She took a breath. Travis left. I think he left. He took some stuff and hasn't been back. Won't answer his phone. Still, I said nothing. I don't know what to do. I leaned against the frame. You're a grown woman. I made a mistake, Mike. No. You made a choice. That shut her up. She came back the next day. This time she had coffee in her hand. Like that was going to buy a conversation. I'm not here to ask for anything, she said quickly. Just to apologize. I let her say it. Let her go on for 5 minutes about confusion, pressure, not knowing what she wanted. Then she paused. I know you probably hate me. I shook my head. Hate takes energy. She looked down. I just thought, maybe, someday, we could be friends. That made me smile. We were never friends. We were married. Then you blew that up. She didn't answer. Just stood there. So I closed the door. Later that week, I got a message from Travis. I didn't handle things right. I know that. I just want to move forward. Move forward? I deleted it. Then blocked his number. I was rebuilding my life brick by brick. Working. Sleeping. Eating better. Lifting again. I wasn't out for revenge. I wasn't chasing karma. But I heard it coming anyway. A friend texted me a photo 2 weeks later. It was Rachel. She was in line at a dollar store, paying for groceries with coins. The friend added. She looked rough. I almost didn't recognize her. I'd never wish misery on someone. Not even her. But I wasn't going to save her from the one she built. She'd spent months making me the villain in her story. Now there was no one left to play hero. The final nail came via email. It was from Rachel. Long, poetic, rehearsed. Talked about how she'd lost herself. About how Travis wasn't who she thought he was. About how I'd always been steady, and she missed that. If you ever want to talk, just talk. I'm here. I didn't respond. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because the story was over. But mine was just starting. She thought I'd fall apart without her. But I was just getting started. It was raining the day Rachel showed up again. No umbrella. No hoodie. Just her, soaked and silent, standing on the front step of my new place. For a second, I thought she might say something dramatic. Maybe beg. She didn't. "Hey," she said, like we'd seen each other last week, not months ago. I leaned against the doorframe and waited. "I know you probably don't want to see me." "You're right." She bit her lip, looked away. "I just didn't know where else to go. You had a whole new life. What happened to that?" Her eyes dropped. "It was a mistake." "No," I said. "It was a decision." She didn't argue. She didn't cry. She just nodded and walked away. I didn't stop her. That night, I read the email she'd sent the week before, but I hadn't opened yet. It was long, full of carefully chosen words. I drove by the house. "It looks like someone's living there now. A real family. A life. I keep thinking about everything you built and everything I broke." I closed the laptop. Not in anger. In peace. Word got around. Rachel was working nights at a diner. Living with 2 roommates she barely knew. Her parents wouldn't take her back. Travis vanished. Apparently, he drained what little savings they had and left. No note. No goodbye. Poetic, really. The man she chose over me couldn't even choose her. Meanwhile, I was booked through the summer. 2 big renovation jobs. A lake house build. A commission to design a small weekend cabin in the mountains. I wasn't thriving out of spite. I just finally had space to grow. Rachel's second text came a few days later. "I'm not asking for help. I just wanted you to know I'm trying. I'm working, saving, getting clean. You probably hate me, but I'm not looking for forgiveness." She was right. I didn't hate her, but I didn't feel sorry either. It wasn't hatred that got me through. It was distance. I started hiking again. Early morning runs. Podcasts in the truck on long drives to job sites. The silence that used to feel heavy now felt like a luxury. And every week that passed made her feel more like a memory than a mistake. Someone told me they saw Travis in Denver, drunk, angry, ranting about fake loyalty and users. That sounded about right. He wasn't heartbroken. He was embarrassed. And I wasn't his brother anymore. Just a mirror he didn't want to look into. Rachel knocked again a week later. This time, I didn't open the door. She left a note under the mat. "You probably won't read this, but I needed to write it. I know you'll never let me back in, and you shouldn't. I just hope, one day, you remember the good before the end." I read it, then threw it away. Not out of anger. Out of finality. There's something powerful about walking away without slamming the door. Letting the silence say everything. That house I built. Still standing strong. The family that moved in sent a thank you card through the nonprofit. Said their daughter took her first steps on the living room floor I'd laid down one cold morning last October. That floor was meant for life. And now, finally, it was getting it. Rachel posted a photo on Instagram. First one in months. Just a cup of black coffee, a window, and the caption, "Starting again." No hashtags. No fake joy. It didn't feel like a cry for attention. It felt like surrender. A friend ran into her. "She looks different," they said. "Quieter. Older." Sometimes people don't age with years. They age with truth. Later that week, I saw her one more time, purely by accident. I was walking out of a hardware store. She was coming in. We both stopped. She smiled, but didn't come closer. "Hi," she said softly. "Rachel, you look good." "Thanks." There was a pause. The kind where everything unsaid hangs in the air like smoke. "I'm glad you're doing okay," she said. I nodded. "I am." Another pause. Then she walked past me, into the store, and out of my life for good. I didn't look back. Because I didn't have to. You want to know what I felt? Not sadness. Not victory. Just lightness. Like I'd finally dropped a weight I didn't know I was carrying. Some people will tell you that revenge is the best closure. They're wrong. Pieces. I still think about the house sometimes. The beams I raised. The walls I measured twice. The nights I spent on that concrete floor, picturing a family in it. I never imagined it wouldn't be mine. But I also never imagined it would matter more to someone else. That's the funny thing about building for love. You don't always get to choose who ends up living in it. I don't regret what I gave her. I just regret she didn't respect it. Now I build for people who do. Clients who shake my hand. Couples who argue over tile colors because they care. Veterans who cry when they see their name on the mailbox. One of them told me something I'll never forget. "You build like you've lost something. But it's beautiful." And I told him the truth. I did lose something, but it gave me this. I never needed Rachel to fall apart. I just needed to stop holding her together. She thought I'd be broken without her. She thought I was the quiet one, the steady one, the predictable one. She never realized that the quietest people are the ones who know how to survive in storms. And now, I don't just survive. I build in them. She thought the worst part was losing me, but she never knew how much she'd already lost. It was almost a year to the day when I heard from Rachel again. The seasons had gone full circle. The lodge cabins I worked on were now booked for summer retreats. I'd built out a solo brand, picked up an apprentice, even started sketching designs for my own home. Not the old one I gave away, but something new. Smaller. Smarter. Just mine. I was standing in the aisle at a lumber yard when my phone buzzed. A message. From her. Mike, can I ask you something? Just once. I didn't open it right away. I finished checking out. Loaded the truck. Drove home. Took a shower. Then I sat down and opened it. I know it's been a long time. I know I don't deserve a response. But there's something I've never said, and if you'll let me, I want to say it in person. No expectations. Just truth. It didn't sound like a trap. It didn't sound like guilt. It sounded like surrender. I thought about it for a day, then replied. 1 hour. At the trailhead by Carter Lake. Saturday, 9 a.m. She said okay. Nothing else. Saturday came. I got there early. It was cool out. Windy. Clouds low over the hills. I stood near the first marker, watching hikers pass by with dogs and backpacks. At 9:06, she arrived. She looked different. Older, but not in a bad way. Just like someone who'd seen herself clearly for the first time. No makeup. No mask. She approached slowly. Thanks for agreeing to this. I nodded. She didn't ask to sit. She didn't try to smile. She just stood there and breathed for a moment. I wanted to say it face to face, she began. That I was wrong. I stayed quiet. I thought love was supposed to be loud. Fireworks. Passion. Big gestures. But what you gave me, the way you build a life, I didn't know how to value that. I thought I needed more. But the truth is, I didn't even understand what enough looked like. She paused. When I left, I told myself it was freedom. That I was claiming something for myself. But it wasn't freedom. It was escape. From my own fear of stillness. I nodded again. Then said, you don't need my forgiveness. I know, she said. But you needed your own. She looked at me like she'd been waiting for those words. I have it now, she said softly. We stood in silence. Then I said something I hadn't planned. I don't think you're a bad person, Rachel. I think you made selfish choices. And you hurt people. But I don't think you're evil. Just unfinished. Tears welled in her eyes. I've never missed something as quietly as I miss you, she said. Not the romance. Not the marriage. Just the way you looked at me like I was someone worth building a home for. You were, I said. Until you weren't. She nodded again. We stood there for a minute longer, not as husband and wife. Not as exes. Just two people who'd walked through fire in different shoes. And then she said goodbye. No hug. No ask. No drama. Just the truth finally out in the open. I stayed at the trailhead a little longer after she left. Took a walk up the hill. Let the wind clear whatever tension was left in me. And by the time I came back down, I realized something. I hadn't just forgiven her. I'd outgrown her. A few days later, I started building again. Not for a client. For me. A small A-frame, up near Red Feather. 1 room. 1 big window. A fireplace. Nothing extravagant. Just clean, simple peace. I worked on it every weekend. No deadlines. No pressure. Just intention. I still heard things from time to time. Rachel got a steady job at a bookstore. Was renting a studio. People said she smiled more now, but not like before, not performative. Just quieter. Grounded. I didn't ask. Didn't check. She was a chapter now. Not a headline. One night, I found an old photo. Us, back when things were easy. Or at least felt that way. I didn't tear it up. Didn't light it on fire. Just placed it in a box with some other memories. I wasn't angry. I was just done. They say you can't heal in the same place you got hurt. Maybe that's true. But I think healing starts the moment you stop letting the wound define you. Rachel was a wound. Now she was a scar. And scars? They fade. Someone asked me recently if I believed in love again. I told them, yes. But not the kind I used to chase. They asked what kind. And I said, the kind that doesn't need proving. The kind that stays when the house is unfinished. The kind that doesn't run when the walls start cracking. They nodded. And I didn't have to explain it any more than that. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't looking back. I was building forward. By midsummer, the A-frame was half finished. 1 bedroom. Sloped roof. Clean wood. Tight seams. No design flourishes, no wasted space. Just stillness and structure. Exactly what I needed. I wasn't building it for anyone else. Not to prove I'd moved on. I was just building. One morning, as I measured a beam, a Jeep pulled up at the ridge. Woman in her 30s. Work boots. Confident walk. Didn't mean to interrupt, she said, stepping out. I've driven past here a few times. I'm Clara. I live nearby. Mike, I said. She nodded at the frame. You doing this solo? Yeah. That's rare. We didn't talk long. Just enough. Before she left, she added, if you ever need a second pair of hands or better coffee, come by. Then she drove off. No push. No pressure. And somehow, that stuck. A week later, I dropped off a coffee on her porch at sunrise. No message, just my name written on the lid. 2 days later, she left a small bag of tools and a note on my workbench. In case yours are dull. She didn't knock. And that said everything. I didn't think about Rachel much anymore. Not out of bitterness. Because I didn't have to. She had moved. Quietly. Started working at a bookstore, someone told me. Lived in a studio above a yoga place. Kept her head down. No posts. No messages. No updates. And I respected that. For the first time, maybe she was figuring things out, without making it anyone else's problem. Travis? Long gone. Someone saw him ranting online about fake loyalty and women who don't get it. Fitting. He thought silence was weakness. He never realized it was the sound of self-respect. One night, I sat on the new porch. Rain on the roof. Coffee in hand. Nothing on my mind. And I realized I'd stopped waiting for the past to hurt less. I just accepted it. Clara visited again. Brought dinner, fresh vegetables, grilled chicken, a bottle of something cold. We ate on crates. No music. No candlelight. Just quiet. She didn't ask about my past. And I didn't volunteer it. Because not every scar needs retelling. Some just need air. After she left, the cabin didn't feel empty. It felt enough. That's when I knew. I wasn't rebuilding myself. I'd already rebuilt. Now I was just choosing what to let in. Clara never felt like a big event. She felt like quiet. The kind of quiet you don't notice right away, but miss when it's gone. No drama. No promises. No demands. She just showed up. And stayed. We never had a first date. Not in the traditional sense. She started visiting the A-frame on Sundays, sometimes with bread, sometimes with nothing but time. She'd sit nearby and read while I worked. Sometimes she'd hand me a tool before I asked. She never asked about my past. That was the first reason I trusted her. One day, while I was installing shelves, she said, "You don't talk much." I smirked. "You think that's a problem?" "No," she said. "I think it's a relief." We didn't kiss for weeks. We didn't need to. It wasn't a chase. It was a presence. And I hadn't had that in years. Rachel hadn't reached out in months. No texts. No late-night regrets. No drama. I imagined she'd learned, in her own way, what letting go really meant. That you don't get closure from others. You make it yourself. One night, Clara stayed after sunset. We sat on the porch and listened to rain hit the trees. She asked, "Do you miss who you were before all of it?" I said, "Sometimes. But I don't think I knew who I really was until after." She nodded like she understood. And I think she did. I told her about the house I gave away. The one I built with my hands and filled with false hope. She didn't flinch. "You built that. They lost it." Those 5 words stayed with me for days. The first time she stayed the night, she didn't bring a bag. She just fell asleep on the couch, curled up with a blanket, while I read blueprints. In the morning, she was in the kitchen making coffee like it was the most natural thing in the world. It didn't feel like a beginning. It felt like something that had already begun. I never called it love. Not yet. Love, for me, had been too loud. Too full of expectations. This was different. This was calm. Then Rachel messaged me. Just a short note. "I hope you're doing okay. I'm better now. Thank you for how you left things. You could have made it ugly. You didn't. I won't forget that." I didn't respond. Not because I was angry. Because I didn't need to. Clara brought me garlic soup a few days later. We ate it on the floor of the cabin. No table yet. Just us, cross-legged, tired from the day. She asked, "Do you believe people change?" I believe they have to want to, I said. She nodded again. That was her way. Letting words sit. No rush. No fix. I got a call from the nonprofit. The one that took the house I gave away. They were expanding. Needed designs for 6 new homes. Said the house I built felt like someone cared, even before anyone moved in. I took the job, because now I could build for others without emptying myself. Clara volunteered to help. Not because I asked. Just showed up with gloves and water bottles. She swung a hammer better than most of the guys I'd worked with. When I watched her lift drywall with quiet determination, I thought, that's what strength looks like. Not loud. Not flashy. Just there. Steady. One night, she asked about the ring. I kept it in a drawer, not out of sentiment, just habit. Why keep it, she asked. Because it reminds me how blind I was. She looked at me and said, then keep it to remind you how far you've come. The next day, I buried it under the A-frame. Didn't say anything. Didn't mark the spot. Just let it go. We drove to the mountains on a Saturday. No plan. Stopped at a fruit stand. Ate lunch by a river. Walked through tall grass that scratched our arms. On the way back, she put her hand on mine. Nothing big. Just a touch. But it was the first time I didn't flinch. I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of heartbreak. Not of betrayal. Not of starting again. We didn't say, I love you. We didn't have to. Some things are spoken louder in silence. And for the first time in years, I trusted it. She wanted a second chance. I wanted silence. But life had other plans. I was standing on the porch with a coffee in my hand when the message came in. Not a call. Not an email. A simple text. Rachel, after everything, the betrayal, the lies, the silence, she finally said something. Can we talk? No punctuation. No hey. No, it's been a while. Just that. 3 words. Like it was that simple. Like the crater she left in my life was just a speed bump she could casually walk back across. I stared at the screen for a long time. Not angry. Not confused. Just tired. I didn't reply, and I didn't delete it either. I just left it there. A dead signal from a past life. Clara noticed something was off that evening. She came by after work with Thai food and a bottle of wine, like she usually did on Fridays. Her smile faded the moment she looked at me. What happened? She asked. Nothing, I said too quickly. Mike. I handed her the phone. She read the message, sighed, and handed it back without a word. She's still looking for cracks, Clara said. To see if she can crawl back in. I nodded slowly. I'm not sure what she wants. Maybe not even she knows. We sat down to eat. We didn't talk much. She didn't push. She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't have to. That was the thing about Clara. She never tried to fix me. She just sat beside the broken parts until I was ready to stand. The next few days passed quietly. I kept waiting for another message. A follow-up. Something desperate. Something angry. Something manipulative. But it never came. Rachel had always been unpredictable, but she'd also been proud. Too proud to beg. Too proud to admit she'd made the wrong bet. So maybe that message, those 3 words, can we talk, was her version of groveling. If so, it was too little, too late. Clara didn't bring it up again, and neither did I. But something changed in me that week. I stopped looking over my shoulder. Stopped wondering if the past would catch up. I'd already outrun it. And then came the grocery store. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The sun was sharp, the parking lot half empty. I'd just come from the new site. The one I was volunteering to help build transitional housing on. The same land that once held the dream home that Rachel and Travis desecrated. Funny how life spins. I wasn't in a rush. Just needed eggs, milk, some coffee. I didn't even notice her at first. Until I turned into aisle 3 and nearly crashed my cart into hers. Rachel. No makeup. Hair in a messy knot. Thin sweater. Jeans that didn't quite fit. She looked small. Her eyes went wide the moment she saw me. Mike, she said. I gave her a nod. Nothing more. She stood still for a moment, gripping the cart handle like it might roll away if she let go. You look good. Thanks, I said. You too. Lie. But kind. She forced a smile. There was silence then, heavy and loud. She broke it first. I didn't know you were this strong, she said, almost a whisper. I tilted my head. No, I said. You never cared to find out. She blinked. Hard. I made mistakes. Yeah, I noticed. I was confused. You were calculated. Her lips pressed into a line. You think I planned to ruin everything? I think you didn't care if you did. That landed like a stone. She didn't argue. Didn't defend. Didn't cry. Just stood there, eyes wide and distant. I thought Travis was going to be more, she said finally. So did he, I replied. She let out a breath, then said, he's gone. I didn't ask where. Didn't care. She went on. I lost everything, Mike. The house. The friends. My job. I'm back at my parents' place. I'm sorry, I said. And I meant it. Not because I wanted her back, but because watching someone destroy themselves, even when they deserve it, is still a sad thing. I don't expect anything, she said. Not forgiveness. Not a second chance. I needed to say it. Well, I said. You did. I turned to go. She called after me. Mike? I paused. I hope you're happy. I didn't turn around. Just said, I am. Then walked away. Outside, the sky was clear. Windy. Crisp. I sat in my truck for a while, hands on the wheel, thinking. Not about her. About how I'd spent years building something she never wanted. And how now, I was building again, not for anyone else, but for me. And for people who actually needed it. That night, I told Clara everything. From the text to the store. She listened quietly, nodding in all the right places. When I was done, she asked, how did it feel? Like the last page of a chapter one didn't know I was still reading, I said. She smiled. Not smug. Not relieved. Just proud. I like the man you become, she said. I looked at her, the woman who walked into my life without demands, without judgment, and I knew something for sure. I like him too, I said. The next morning, I stood on the new foundation we were pouring. The site overlooked the hills. Same view as that old property. Same wind. Same Colorado sun. But everything felt different now. Not haunted. Not broken. Just open. Ready. I picked up a hammer and went back to work. It had been almost a year since I walked away from that house. The one I built with my hands. The one I thought would hold our future. The one Rachel and Travis turned into a betrayal site. Back then, the sight of it made my stomach twist. Now, I wasn't sure what I'd feel. I pulled up in the same old truck, parked on the gravel shoulder just past the tree line, the way I used to when I'd bring lumber after hours. The dirt road hadn't changed, but everything else had. There were people now. Movement. A few men unloading supplies from a van. A woman in uniform, army, I think, standing near the porch holding a clipboard. I didn't get out right away. Just sat there, watching, breathing. The house looked different. Not because the walls had changed, but because it no longer carried her echo. It had been painted. There was a ramp now for wheelchairs. A new sign on the porch read, Fort Haven, Transitional Housing for Veterans. I didn't name it, but it fit. A young guy in work boots spotted me and walked over. I rolled the window down halfway. Hey, can I help you? No, I said with a small smile. Just passing through. He nodded but looked curious. You've been here before? Yeah, I said. I built it. His eyebrows rose. You're Mike. I nodded. He smiled and reached out to shake my hand. You're kind of a legend around here. I laughed, not bitter, not sarcastic. Just honest. I doubt that. No, really. Everyone says this place wouldn't exist without you. You gave it away. I had to, I said. It was never mine to keep. He stood there for a moment, like he wanted to say more. Instead, he just said, well, thanks. I gave him a wave and watched him walk back to the house. I finally stepped out of the truck. My boots hit the dirt, and for a moment, the memories came rushing in, late nights with hammer in hand, frost on the windows, music playing from my phone as I installed the kitchen cabinets. Rachel standing where that porch now ended, arms crossed, asking why I was always tired. And then, silence. The kind that settles once you've made peace with it all. I walked the perimeter. Didn't go inside. Didn't need to. I'd been in that house enough to know what it looked like. What mattered now is who lived in it. I saw a man sitting in a chair near the edge of the yard, maybe 50, maybe 60. Gray beard, army jacket. Just staring at the trees. We nodded to each other. Nothing more. That small, wordless moment felt like closure. Because this was what the house was meant to be. A shelter. A beginning. Not a monument to something broken. On the way back to my truck, I took one last look. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel proud. I just felt still. Clara called as I was driving back. Where are you? She asked. I went to see the house, I said. Do you regret it? No, I said. It's not mine anymore. But it's better than it would have been. She paused for a second. And you? I'm better than I was. That night, we sat on the back deck of the A-frame, watching the stars. No music. No phones. Just us. She leaned into my shoulder and said, You're quieter than usual. I'm not empty anymore, I said. Just full in a different way. I used to think forgiveness meant letting someone back in. Now I know better. Forgiveness is letting go and still closing the door behind you. I don't tell this story because I want pity, or revenge, or applause. I tell it because maybe someone out there is standing in a half-built house, holding a hammer in one hand and heartbreak in the other, wondering if it's even worth finishing. It is. Not because of what you're building, but because of what you'll become when it's done. Rachel and Travis? I don't know where they are now. And for the first time, I don't care. Their story ended for me long before it ended for them. And mine? Mine is just getting started. The end.